city is divided not only there but also here. Reference to Manhattan as one focal point of many within New York. I'm curious about the silence or the near silence on language. Language itself and the way language operates in different parts of the city, and how you see language, the carioca, the accent, the vocabulary, the references, how those over time have maintained a certain consistency, a certain richness, if you will, that can transcend, possibly transcend, social class differences, as identified in a study by Paul Fussell at Penn called Class in America, in which he argues there are two parts of American society that are invisible: the very, very poor and the very rich. They are invisible, but for the rest, language is influenced by both, but particularly by those who are invisible on the bottom. And you see that, I think, in Brazilian music and other ways, but I'm just curious, as writers and translators, how you grapple with this distinct voice of Brazilian carioca.
Well, that's a good question. In my first novel, I tried to reproduce two of my characters. They go to a baile funk to listen to music of... Funk music is not what funk is in America. Well, how can I... Funk is like Miami bass with pornographical lyrics full of slang, and there's a whole page of the book. I make I try to get this language and try to write it, and I think it's impossible to translate that in English. When I'm going to translate the book, the translator will be a huge problem. We'll have a huge problem because it's impossible. And what's happening in Brazil, I don't know if it's in America it's like this, is that when a new word, a new slang appears in the favelas, in 6 months it's getting used on the streets.
Yes. Yeah.
In 8 months it's getting, like you are in the fanciest party, people are saying that, and in less than a year you will see in the soap opera of Global TV, right? And the language from the streets is changing constantly. And who is creating this language, this new language? It's they, okay? So, but I think that the Brazilian society, we managed to integrate better the language than the persons, right? So they exist, we dance their rhythm, we listen to them, but we're not in the same table. And that's terrible. And in a way or another, everything we write that goes on Rio de Janeiro must include this, even if we don't say that. But we are living under this, as we're living under violence. I don't have to write about, specifically about a shot, or because I'm living under this menace of the violence. If I live near that area or in the 90s, everywhere, we must remember that what happened in Sunday in Rocinha, it's something incredible. I don't think it, for the ones who never been in Rio, it's like in the fanciest part of town, like in Upper East Side maybe, or in the village, I don't know. Imagine what's the most dangerous neighborhood in New York?
The Upper East Side.
where you can see drug dealers with guns on streets. You don't have it here, okay. It's impossible. So imagine this fancy area and there's a hill, and if you live in this fancy area, you are 24 hours under the Amira.
Under the gun? No.
Yes, in the point of the gun. And you know that in the top of that hill there are 100, 200 guys with not handguns, but machine guns and bazookas. And last Sunday, they managed to kick these marginals with guns, not the marginals, but the guns, right? or the territorial control of Rocinha, which is the biggest favela of Zona Sul. So it doesn't matter if I don't need to write specifically about this, because my life is set under this. I don't have to write about the shots, because I'm writing under the shots. It makes sense. And it completely changed my literature. It completely changed the way I see the world. If I'm in a party in Rio, in this fancy spot, and sometimes we could, in the 90s, we couldn't leave because of the gunshots. And the owner of the place just turns up the volume and says, we have to stay here and dance a little more. It's common. It was common during my teenagerhood. So it completely changes everything I write. But I don't need to put that on paper. Actually, I think that I never had. But the impact of this it's everywhere.